All right, guys, so yesterday I had you watch kind of an introductory video that just went over all the different types of numbers that we're really exposed to day, and talking about their types. As we'd mentioned too, if you were asked to identify a person, you could have many different descriptors that you could use. You could say it's a female, you could say that she's tall, she has brown hair. There are many different words you could describe a person with, and the same is true for numbers. There's many different types of number categories that we can use to describe those types of numbers. Today we're actually going to dive into some notes. I thought I'd try it a little bit differently. I'm going to work you through our note sheet, and I'll also provide a paper copy of the PowerPoint here that you can review as well. And then at the end of this assignment, you'll see a activity that I'd like you to complete to make sure that you understand. So we're going to break this down into kind of three different parts, but let's take a look at the big overview. So when you're identifying number types, here are just some kind of helpful hints and tips to kind of keep in mind. So numbers, again, they can kind of fit into more than one type. Oh, let me go back here. Okay, so they can fit into more than one type. Again, just the same as you could use multiple words to describe a person. The same number can also be written several different ways. So this is going to come into play maybe a little bit later in the week, but just to kind of review with you what I mean by that is that you can have the number 5. That is the same value as 25 over 5. 25 over 5, 25 divided by 5 is 5, right? So it's a different way to write the same number. You can also see the number 5 written as the square root of 25. A little more hidden, right? But when we simplify it out on a calculator, you find that it is the exact same value as 5. And in decimal world, 5 is the same as 5.0. So again, you might see these same numbers shown different ways based on what they're describing. For instance, you saw in the video that negative numbers, those are definitely used more often when it comes to weather. Fractions may be used to represent a test score, things like that. So there are definitely different ways that you're going to see these numbers, and we're going to work through on converting and identifying their different types. All right, so here's a really helpful resource. This is the number types graphic organizer. And as you see in the corner here, I advocate for you to take a picture. So get out your phones, pause the video for a quick minute, and take a picture of this graphic organizer because you're going to be able to use this when you complete your assignment, and I think it's very helpful to kind of make sense of your work. All right, so let's go through the first, actually, let me go back and let me go over this organizer a little bit here for you guys. So this basically, you're gonna think of this as kind of like buckets. And if you're dropping balls into the bucket, okay, so if I would drop this purple ball in this bucket, let's say I shoot a hoop, it's gonna go down through natural, and we're pretending these buckets have holes in the bottom. It's gonna drop down into hole, go into integer, rational, head here to the bottom, into the real numbers category. And I actually just lost the ball there. If I had another ball and I dropped it in over on this and I made it in this bucket, it would go from irrational down to real. All the numbers that we're going to be working with, guys, this year are going to be real numbers. So that's something to note. So kind of looking at our categories, we have natural numbers. These are our counting numbers that you start out learning in elementary school. We have whole numbers. These are our basic positive numbers, those numbers we've started with learning, and also includes 0. So the difference between these two numbers, these are all our positive counting numbers, and these are the positive counting numbers plus 0. Integers, these are all of our positive counting numbers and 0, and then it adds on additionally negative numbers. So I think of integers as the number line numbers, because this is what if you see down below, this should maybe kind of think of the number line 0, and we've got positive on the right, negative on the left. So today we're just going to look at just these first 3 categories. Okay, we're not going to really worry about any of the other categories first. Let's start it out easy. Natural numbers, whole numbers, integers. All right, so moving on to the next page. Again, if we're looking at normal positive negative numbers, you see number -2 walking by. How do I describe it? So here's my green ball. I'm going to kind of pretend that I'm going to be shooting a hoop into the correct bucket so that I can identify what type of number it is. So -2, is it a natural number that you started out learning? No. No negatives in there. Whole number. Well, the only new number that's added here is 0, and it's not a whole number. Integers. all negative, ding, 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 and positive numbers, including zeros. So this would be, again, think about -2, you'd find it on a number line. So the highest bracket it goes into are integers. It is an integer, goes down to rational, and ends up there in real numbers. I'm going to type in what type of number it is. It is a integer, and it went down to rational, and last but not least, it fell into that real numbers bucket. So those would be our descriptor words to describe too. How about let's take a look at zero. So again, you're asking yourself these same questions starting at the top. Is it a natural number? No. Is it a whole number? Yes. Whole numbers are those basic positive numbers and zero. So I would throw my basket into here, and as you see, it should drop clear down to the bottom. So if I'm going to list, I would say whole, integer, rational, real. Whole, integer, rational, real. Those are all our descriptor words for zero. Last but not least, our last example here is 4. So again, starting at the top, it's kind of a normal positive negative number. So I start with my basic kind of types of numbers. Is it a natural number? Is it a number you learned counting out when you were little? It is, and you can also see it listed in the example. So this, I'd be shooting at this top bucket, which means it has the most categories that it passes through. So again, let me type them out for you so you can see. 4 starts out in the natural number category, then is a whole number, integer, rational, real. So it is definitely by far the one with the most descriptors. So on your activity, guys, I'm going to have a bunch of different normal, positive, negative numbers, right? So we're more so focusing on asking yourself these kind of questions like we just did in our examples, and then highlighting. I'm going to give you all the options. I just want you to go through and highlight what number types describe that number. All right, if you need any help, let me know. Reach out either via chat or through the inbox on Teams. Good luck.